Despite Master Duel's generous monetization model, there are some people that believe that Master Duel is pay to win, seeing as I always get angry comments whenever I even touch on this topic. So I decided to make a more detailed video exploring this and explaining the definition behind pay to win. Because people nowadays toss the term pay to win at anything without even knowing the real definition behind it. The recent poll does show that the majority of people, at least in this community, agree that, by definition, Master Duel is not pay to win. Some people will already argue that these results will vary depending on who you ask and which genre of game, but honestly, this is how it usually goes in the general gaming community. And more importantly, the arguments that you're about to hear are more than just, oh, it's the majority, therefore it's right. No, there's actual reasons why people believe this is the original and true definition. So the way this poll is structured is the answers represent where people draw the line and consider a game pay to win. Is a game pay to win just because it has a cash shop? I intended this as a troll option, but appears some people within the 4% are actually not joking. And the line drawn at this choice is basically, if the game has any type of monetization, it's already labeled pay to win. Next up, some people draw the line at convenience, and I'm talking like not even in-game strength. Convenience being just quality of life things or faster progress, even if in the long run that progress won't surpass the free player's progress. And the next two options up are quite similar, but in general the people who vote this draw the line at, okay, if you can buy an in-game advantage and that advantage cannot be grinded for or bought with free currency, then it's pay to win. So again, this is what the majority voted for, and it's believed by many to be the original definition of pay to win. And to be perfectly clear, this definition means a game isn't necessarily pay to win, even if it has a store that includes bought in-game advantages, as long as those same advantages can eventually be achieved by free-to-play players through grinding or free in-game currency. And the second option is pretty much the same, but it also takes note of the important fact that some games technically do allow you to grind free-to-play the same advantages, but the grind is too unreasonably long. So essentially, it's still a paywall. Now obviously, the big difference between this and the first choice is that now there is some subjectivity included because players have different opinions on what should be considered a reasonable and fair grind. But in general, you can tell which game companies were like, okay, let's make it super impossible and just make it take years for the free player to achieve the same things, versus being able to catch up within a few hours or a few days. Anyways, on the topic of Master Duel, by definition, it is not pay to win according to someone who believes in choice 1. And as for choice 2, it depends on whether they think Master Duel is reasonable with its grinding and gem giveaways, which some people think it's okay, some people think it's too little, but regardless, the majority would not label Master Duel as pay to win. And here's why Master Duel is not pay to win despite the fact that you can buy cards with real money, according to the logic of choice 1. In Master Duel, it's known that you can pretty much make a complete top tier deck within minutes of starting the game. Now, if you go ahead and build the strongest deck, which for example, let's say Zodiac Tri-Brigade, if you have this deck, you have already achieved winning for free. You already have access to the highest win rate deck in the game without spending a single dollar. So okay, some people at this point are like, hold on. You can't complete the deck as soon as you log in, which is true. You'll have to do about an hour of solo mode to fully complete the deck, including hand traps. And they argue that in that hour, someone who bought the deck with money already has the advantage. And this is where the choice 3 mindset comes in, where people say that if you can buy convenience or faster progress, it should already be considered pay to win. But the key here, which I don't think this 15% is realizing, is the word win in pay to win, as some people have pointed out, which is very important to the definition of the term. And now here's an example of two players in Master Duel, right? So the one on top is a paying player. They bought the strongest deck with money, so they immediately have the top deck and the top win rate. The second one is free to play, so they had to grind it out for an hour or two, but was able to achieve that exact same deck in the end. Which is, by the way, it's possible just by doing solo mode. So you can literally complete a deck 100% before facing a single human player. And I know this because I've already done it, and many people can attest to do the same. Anyways, the point is, once the free-to-play has caught up to the paying player, there's nothing that the paying player can now do to increase his win rate in a duel. They are now on even ground. And the thing is, there is not a single card in this game that's behind a paywall. Every single card in this game is obtainable with free gems, and every single card is craftable. There are no paywalled cards. Duel Links did have paywalls. Duel Links can be considered pay to win, but we're not talking about Duel Links here. We're talking about Master Duel. An actual pay-to-win advantage in Master Duel would be, for example, if you could buy an item in the store with only money and not gems, that makes you start off duels with 10,000 life points instead of 8,000. If they go ahead and paywalled cards, then it would be pay-to-win. Like, for example, let's say that Ash Blossom couldn't be crafted and you could only buy it in the store for money and not for gems. That's actually pay-to-win, but to pay to have the convenience of not having to grind solo mode, that's not paying for winning, that's paying for convenience. Because remember, at no point does a free-to-play player have to go on ladder to fight any other players before he completes his first deck. There's more than enough gems available in solo mode. Oh, but the paying player can build more decks, they say, but that doesn't matter since this is already the highest win rate deck in the game. Even if the paying player buys different decks, he still won't have a higher win ratio than the player who has the one deck with the highest win ratio already. And you could go ahead and try to copium this out further by saying the pay to win player can buy the counter deck, but this is not a vacuum where these two players are only facing each other. No, the assumption is of course random ladder matchmaking, and that's the only reasonable in-game standard to go by until they release official in-game tournaments. Now, if you believe that the small amount of time the paying player saved is considered pay to win, then unfortunately you've already twisted the definition, as again, the only thing the player paid for was convenience. In the scope of a duel, it doesn't matter how fast someone completed the deck. If both decks are complete, they have the same win rate. Now, some will go on to argue that yes, Master Duel does give you your first deck free, but it doesn't give you enough gems to be prepared for a meta change or a new release. The meta change argument. But I will argue to this that actually the gems are generous enough for you to make one deck and be able to save up after that. Like save up a decent amount for the future. Because within just a week or two of play, players have attested to the fact that they can build 2 or even 3 or even 4 complete decks without paying a single dollar. Meaning that for sure, unless you mess up, which at that point it's on you, you can go buy one full deck, save your gems, and be prepared for the next meta chain. Which, by the way, if you've noticed, releases are not as often on Master Duel as they are on Duel Links. We have not even gotten any new card releases yet from the time of this video since the game's release. If the paces of releases were faster, then this could be a more viable argument, but let's be real, the pace is slow enough to save gems, even if the gem income does slow down after a few days of playing. Not to mention that this game has a crafting system. I think people's minds are still stuck on Duel Links, which doesn't have a crafting system, but if a new release happens on Master Duel, like let's say Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer comes out and you want to put him in all your decks, you don't even have to pull for him. You just go ahead, craft him, 30 ultra rare points, no problem. The point is though, meta shifts are fewer in between on this game and easier to manage because of the crafting system. And some of the same people will go on and say, you know, it's not fair that I can only play one deck, that's so boring that I have to save up for the next release and be stuck with only one deck. Well, I don't know what you expect, honey, but the fact is that with one top tier deck, you can still win. And it's not fun, of course, but that's why people make alts or pay actual money so that they can play more than one deck. And going back to our literal definition of pay to win, that is not paying to win. That's playing to have fun, that's paying for variety. Their money did not make them win more than you, but it did allow them to have more fun than you. So why should you be jealous of someone else having fun if it's not affecting your win rate? Side note, often coupled up with the Master Duel's pay to win argument is people having the notion, the more ultra rares you have in a deck, the more you win, therefore the more you pay, the more you win, which could not be further from the truth. Back to our example, the Zoo Tri-Brigade deck, considered the strongest and one of the most played decks right now, is actually much cheaper than most completed decks. Same goes for Adamancipator, another high win rate deck that you're seeing mostly in the replays in this video, which has only 19 ultra rares, not to mention the fact that literally all of them are just staple hand traps or usable in multiple decks with the exception of Dragite. Which, by the way, some people will still brainlessly say that this is already expensive for a deck, not putting into context the fact that staples are also used in other decks, meaning you'll already likely have these, and if you don't craft them, the next deck you make will probably include them as well. So yes, it's still 30 ultra rare points, but it is 30 ultra rare points that you're not spending on your next deck too. But I guess these are the type of people that think a deck isn't considered cheap unless it has like max 3 ultra rares. Anyways, just compare this deck with a deck like Heroes or Dragon Link Dragon Maids, which have many more ultra rares that aren't even usable in other decks even. Yet their win rate is not as high, sometimes even laughably low enough to be called pay to lose instead. Lots of ultra rares does not a high win ratio make, and it really is facepalm worthy when people think rarity is the only factor in a deck's strength just because they have the underlying impression that the only reason other players beat them is because those other players have spent money. Now another side note, in terms of game genres like MMOs, paying for progression does have a stronger argument for actually being pay to win if they can snowball and maintain that bot progress to always have an advantage over non-paying players. But as we discussed here on Master Duel, the gap between a non-paying player and a free player's win rate is literally non-existent, and the very short time period which a free player has to play in order to catch up is negligible. So in my opinion, labeling Master Duel pay to win is either just a huge misdefinition, which I hope that's all it is, or someone parroting pay to win because they heard someone else say it, or possibly, not surely, but possibly, some people are just using it as an excuse for their losses or other deep-seated issues. Like, this is gonna branch off topic a bit, but people care too much about money sometimes, to the point where like they think it's the reason for everything. I got kind of surprised when I released a video a while back saying, if you want to learn how to counter a deck, you should play the deck itself, right? And some people, the first thing they commented was, you want me to spend money on these decks just to try them and then learn how to counter them? And the thing is, no, literally no one brought up money until you did. What was implied in the video, which I guess they didn't get, is that you can make an alt to learn the new decks on a new account, or you could even use a free alternative like a third-party simulator if it troubles you so much to make a new Steam. Which, by the way, I didn't even need to touch on the fact that you can make alts in this game to argue that this game is not pay to win. But let's talk about that, because this is also a topic that comes up often when it comes to judging whether Master Duel is pay to win or not. People are going on to say that the ability to make alts should not be helping the free-to-play argument. Which, first of all, why the hell not? And they'll say, like, they'll make excuses like it's against the TOS, which you'll go on and wonder if they actually read the TOS, because the TOS doesn't actually say anything about alternate accounts. Nor has anyone ever been banned for making alts, nor would Konami even probably bother to ban people for making alts. For all we know, they could be loving it because it's pumping up their account numbers, and they don't care because the people who wouldn't spend money will not spend money regardless of whether they can make alts or not. And at this point, you'll probably hear the ethics card, as in either it's not ethical for someone to make alts, which, wow, okay, it's nice that you're so morally sound, or on the flip side, it's not ethical for Konami to force people to have to make alts to enjoy their game. And this is where I'll have to hand out a reality check, because there are literally some people that will say, and I am so glad that this is mostly a vocal minority, but some people will literally be like, nope, I don't think it's right that Konami monetizes Master Duel this way, and I should not have to make alternate accounts to enjoy Master Duel. And at that point, like, really, what are you expecting, man? Okay, you don't want to take a few minutes to make an alt, that's fine. You don't want to spend any money, that's fine. But you also want to have the same convenience that paying players have without paying the same thing that they pay, which is delusional. Or, well, the only other alternative is that you want Konami to shaft their entire monetization model just to fit your standards, which is entitled. But I get it, right? Because you're all like, Konami bad, Konami no deserve my money, which at that point, it's fully within your right to play a free third-party alternative Yu-Gi-Oh! And or never buy anything from Konami if you don't support them or their practices. Which, if you already went ahead and did that, then great for you. But some people literally be sticking around wanting everything to bend to their will and their standards. They want the premium, which is Master Duel, without paying the premium. Heck, not even the premium, just a few minutes of grind and effort. Some people are going on to say that it's only right for Konami to have released Master Duel completely free, or at least a one-time purchase only. Or they're saying things like, oh, they should have just went the cosmetics route and sell cosmetics instead of selling cards. Which, first of all, that would work for a game like Valorant, but for Master Duel, that's not gonna make jack. And let's be clear, I'm not even defending Konami or any game company. All I'm saying is that Konami is a business. Game companies are businesses, and you should not expect anything from a business other than they do what businesses do, and that's make profit. But I should hold them to that moral expectation, you say. Well, okay, go ahead. I'm not saying don't hold them to an expectation. But I am saying if you do have that expectation, then all you'll get is disappointment, plain and simple. Like, some dude's logic is literally, oh, Konami's a multi-million-dollar company. They can afford to just sell cosmetics in Master Duel. The fact that they sell the cards, that's scummy. And that might not necessarily be false, but that's also not how the world works. Konami didn't get to where they are now because they decided, oh, I'm successful now. Now I'm gonna shaft my own monetization and revenue to fully cater to my customer base's moral standards. Hell no, a business will always act like a business. They're not gonna randomly switch tactics and be a charity for you. You want a whole ass company to bone themselves by settling for a clearly lesser monetization strategy, which arguably it's already fair in Master Duel. But let's be real, like, you just don't want to put in any grind or effort, or let alone money. No shot in Asgard, someone walks up to you at your 9 to 5 and asks you, hey, I know you're working your butt off, but do you want to donate all your wages to me this month and you can just rely on like the tips? And you say, yeah man, sure, let me give you my entire paycheck. No way you're saying yes to that, but this is what you're expecting a whole ass company to do for you. Because yes, Konami hired full teams to work on this game so they could give it to you for free, right? So they could make money off of just cosmetics, right? And the truth is, they can monetize the game as they damn well please, and people should not be expecting any kind of ethics or morality in this decision. But also on the flip side, you as a consumer can disagree with that monetization and decide that, nah, I'm not gonna buy. Another argument that tends to come up is that game companies are not putting out enough content or effort in relation to the money that they're making. Essentially, that they don't deserve to make that revenue. But unfortunately, this is also not how the world works. Like, if a game generates profit, then the game clearly did have enough value for people that they spent money on it. And if that is not the case, if they still didn't deserve it, then that's not on the game company anymore. That's on the player base for continuing to buy, even though they know that the company doesn't deserve it. And here's yet another layer to the pay-to-win pie. All things considered, if Master Duel did not give you enough free gems to make a handful of complete decks on every account, which they do, even if they gave you 0 gem income, which they don't, and even if they didn't have events like Xyz Festival that just throws a few thousand gems at you, which they do, the fact is, this is already very generous for a card game. And I don't know if you're new to card games, but you're literally supposed to buy stuff. Like IRL, you're getting none of this for free. Which, yeah, you can argue that it's different IRL because you can actually trade cards and resell them, but still, at its core, if having to buy cards pisses you off, then it's probably not the genre for you. Okay, I'm feeling a bit hungry now, so have a nice day, and